Welcome back to Champ and Sons Planet Coaster Let's Play series. And what you're looking at right now is we're going to be putting in our third coaster in the park. It is going to be a wing coaster, and I think some of y'all may notice that some edits have been made to the park so far. Trust me, we will do a little bit of a walkthrough later on to kind of show those off so you can kind of see where the park stands at. I am going to name the park. I have decided Austin Weirdland, mainly because Austin likes the whole keep Austin weird. And if places like Canada can have Canada's Wonderland, why can't we have Austin Weirdland? You know what I mean? So that's what we're going to be naming the park. I'll probably be creating the sign for that off screen, so you don't have to worry about trying to watch that painstaking process happen. And then, well, I guess a little bit more about this coaster that we're looking at. This is a wing coaster, as I mentioned before. And the reason why I wanted to do a wing coaster and specifically kind of do it in this area, one, I've never been on one. All the parks in my area do not have one available there. So this has kind of just been like a dream ride for me. And that's kind of my idea going into it. It does keep this color blue throughout. I will tell you that I am planning on changing that color, but once again, you probably won't see that happen on camera in the next episode. I am kind of trying to keep the episodes a little bit more of the most interesting parts of it. You know, kind of getting a view of the park so you can see some of the foliage work that's happened, some of the different changes that have occurred as far as rides that have been added. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. So no worry, you haven't missed out on too much. We will hit those points up. And anyways, what I'm doing right now with this coaster, most of them have that kind of like drop turn, half loop sort of thing that the B&M does on these wing coasters. It's a pretty popular, at least start to these. And I didn't really want to do it that way. I kind of wanted to basically, in terms of the hill, make it more of a barrel roll at that point. And so that's pretty much what I was going with. And that's kind of how I decided on it. And you can tell I struggle pretty decently through it. There's times that, man, I start playing around with the size of the track. I start looking at, okay, let me even see if this is possible. Let me smooth some of these things out. And as soon as I started doing that, it completely changed over the rotation on the little barrel roll type thing. It made it semi horrifically twisty and flat at the same time. You'll see me go through a couple iterations of it, and you'll see me go through a couple iterations of a lot of part of this ride. This was one of the more difficult coaster builds that I've done. Well, that's kind of part of the fun in it, in playing this game, isn't it? Though, right? So. A little bit about the channel and kind of what's going to be going on. Right now this is episode 6. I am going to try to get episode 7 out before the end of next week. No guarantees on that. And I say that because after that I will be going out of town for a week with the family. And so I won't be able to do any type of uploads. So hopefully if I can get one out by next Thursday. If not, it'll be at least a whole other week. Couple weeks between these episodes. And you've probably seen a little bit of a drop off in some of the Planet Coaster stuff. Kind of hit it hard and heavy pretty quick. And then it kind of dropped off a little bit there for a while because I'd started a new series. We do play multiple games on this channel. It's not just Planet Coaster, but I also do sports gaming. And so I do have a couple, well, one Madden 20 series has ended, the face of the franchise one. But I've started up a Black Knights out of London, a relocation series, relocating the Buffalo Bills to England. And so that's kind of what I had hit a little bit focus on. It is a little bit easier to make those clips versus these because, I can tell you this is a Saturday right now, and I probably started work to get some of these other parts of this part done. Before I started working on this roller coaster so I could have it ready. And I I probably, let's see, it's about 4 o'clock now. So I started at about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And well, maybe not that early, maybe closer to 9. But pretty much worked straight through for about 3 hours um, to work on getting this coaster built. And now this is sped up quite a bit. Not sure if you can notice that, but this is sped up quite a bit to condense everything down. And even then, I don't make you see the building of the station and things like that because it's, once again, it's those kind of tedious work that, yeah, it's a struggle to do at times. And so I know, I can only imagine that for some people it's a struggle to watch. And I'm not going to put you through that, I will say. And so that's kind of what we're doing for this episode and kind of what we've been doing with the channel as far as the Madden series goes. Now, I will say I'm thinking maybe of starting a Planet Zoo here in probably a couple weeks. I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how far I've gotten in this park before I do that. But I don't know. Let me know in the put a comment in the details. Let me know what your thoughts are. Should I get started with the Planet Zoo series as well, or just kind of keep it to the Planet Coaster and then some of the other games that we have on the channel? And I say that because one, UFC 4 is coming out here in I think the middle of August, so I'll probably be starting a series with that, and then the new Madden comes out around the end of August, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. So that's kind of going to probably take over a new series for me on that one. Ooh, excuse me. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. So let me know about Planet Zoo. If, not, I might just continue on with this one and then do those other games. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And one other thing about the location of this coaster, while I get back to, off my sidetrack and get back into the Planet Coaster chat, the location of it, I really wanted it to be right there because you can kind of see I had to get into building a Mainstreet. I didn't really want to. I was kind of trying to get away from that, but my hand was really forced into it. I kind of have to, at times, and so I really wanted to be able to essentially have the view of walking down the main street and seeing the top of this hill go down, and then the top of the loop come up, and seeing the coaster do that. I think is just such a cool sight line that how can you pass that opportunity up? And so that's really why I put it in this location. That kind of played a little bit more of a role in terms of why it was such a pain to fit in and to actually get a decent ride going here. And I do go through several ride-throughs just while I'm building it to see how fast it goes. And this thing has got a lot of G-forces, and those 0G rolls that the game has already built in them, I do love them because they're so much better than what I can do. However, the problem is they create a lot of G-forces, and man, it's something. If you have a quicker ride and you put that much G-force into it, it's going to give you some pretty poor stats. So I'm looking for something a little bit, probably 5.5 and above. I put in quite an in-depth brake section in the back, so that would lower those stats quite a pretty decent amount. But I figure a 5.5, after the brake section at the end and including the lift hill, you got to be looking at probably a 6 to 7 in there, which is about perfect where you would want it to be. Now, one thing with that turn that you're seeing me put in, what I'm going to do with that turn is I'm actually going to encase that turn. That's going to be encased into I guess I would say building. You're not going to see that happen because, man, it is kind of a pain to do. And that building took probably an hour and a half, 2 hours alone just for that. So, yeah, I don't think I recorded that. I'm fairly certain I did not. But you will see it when we do the ride through near the end of the video. But I do encase that in, and I'm going to end up putting, I haven't put it in yet, but I'm going to put some, I guess, the fog machines in there. just because I think that looks pretty cool coming through there. Um, and so that's kind of where this ride is going. You're gonna see me make a couple changes here pretty quick, just because one, I will get it connected at the end, and then I'll do a quick ride through. It'll kind of zoom by, but you'll see the stats at times. I think it works. However, there's some spots of speed and everything that are just horrific, and G-forces and nausea that shoot off the charts. And yeah, you may want to design a ride that's fun and exciting, but nobody wants to get off a ride and just immediately blow chunks. All right. I think this is one of those moments. If you can see the nausea setting, look at it as it comes to the 0G rolls and the corkscrews. Holy Lord, does that nausea shoot up quite a bit. Dang near all the way to the end, I think. So I ended up going through a few iterations of it. And really that's because it has so much speed that it even shoots around the brake turns. It's going so fast the brakes can't even stop it. And there's a block section in there too. So that gives you an idea of how fast that stuff is. But either way, I digress. So here we go. I was using the in-game 0G rolls, and I decided at that point, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna build one myself. And I'm not very good at doing those custom type of inversions. And I think one thing I have to do is set the whole banking offset thing, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't really want to do. Although I've seen the results of it for when some people use that whenever they build, and it is fantastic. But it's just not me. I think we all know it's just not who I am. So I go through and I put in one, and the funny thing about these custom ones, and I'll guess it has to do with that banking offset. Uh, it's weird. It feels like it just shoves each segment like boom, 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 as you kind of go through. And you'll see whenever we do the ride through, it'll feel that way as you go over those custom made inversions. But I started thinking, in a real roller coaster, if you think about it, not all of them are exactly as smooth as people can actually make them in this game. And so that kind of I like to say adds a hint of realism to it, having a little bit of the joltiness. And I noticed that on some of these parts there's no track supports going through. Once again, no, I'm not going to do the custom supports. I just forgot to click that button. So as I go back through and work on some of the smoothing stuff, I do end up putting the track supports on. I try to make it so they're not so obtrusive, but it is plan code, and those are the track supports they give you. And so when you're playing on like me on a laptop, where you have limited amount of space and capability, you'll take whatever in-game support you can get, just for the simple fact that it kind of makes life easier. So here we go. We get it kind of connected, and I think that's the last major change to the actual layout of the track. This is just testing it out. Once we do the ride through, it will have all of the foliage and everything like that going on around it. So you will be able to see all of that mixed in with the ride. But yeah, I like how it turned out. I really do. I think it turned out pretty decent, and I'd say realistic enough for what you would have in a theme park with a pretty decent sized budget. I'm not really thinking of, oh, we're super rich, or we're not very rich. We're more or less a broke theme park. I'm not really building it with too much of that in mind. But I think everybody, unless you're a Disney World or a Universal, and you got money coming in from all those sorts of areas, yeah, you may have one or two really drastically themed ride, but a lot of them, from what I've seen on YouTube videos and stuff like that, they have some theming and some, I guess, obstacles that you go through and stuff, but overall, not all that much. A lot of more theming that comes in on rides generally tends to happen in the, I guess, in the queue going up to the ride. But once you get on the ride itself, yeah, you got some basic theming, but not nothing too much. Nothing too strong. So, and I'm just fixing that little turnaround. Like I said, it did have quite a bit of speed, and I needed to go back through and kind of work on those 0G rolls. Like I said, it's not really a change to the layout that I would consider, but it is something that I had to do a few times uh, coming into. And I wanted to keep the overall footprint of this coaster decently sized, but minimal enough. So that's kind of why I went through and made some of these changes and tried to really fix how the roll worked. And so yeah, that's kind of the theory behind this. So we're just going to be kind of getting this track connected back again. Man, I was lucky enough that I kind of hit at the same points on a lot of these segments, which at times, I think as everybody knows, if you go back and change the middle part of a coaster, it doesn't always match up just right. So I did have some issues before, but I got pretty lucky on this one, and it turned out pretty dang decent. Um, Especially for the lineup coming on back for it. So here we go. I'm just going to be putting in a little brake section. It's not a block section right there. I always like to keep my block sections near the end, mainly just because I don't know, if you don't have a line that's so full, and even with full rides, it kind of works out pretty decently. I might still have to go back through and time it out depending on how popular the ride is and how many people like to ride it. But that's one of those things, as the old saying goes, we'll get to that bridge after we cross it, And so just kind of getting this thing matched up, lined up. I do put the catwalk not all the way across, but I did end up putting that. Yeah, I guess maybe I did go all the way across those segments. Wasn't too sure about that. But yeah, there it is. And so I'm going to start going over some parts and smoothing it out. Um, don't worry, you don't have to watch me go through and smooth every couple pieces together. I'm not going to make you do that. But just for dedication purposes, I will make you do a little bit of it. So that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles on that end. And getting a lot of views. I've been having a little bit of a problem with my mouse recently, so trying to twist the camera and everything in some angles just doesn't really work out for me all that well. All right, so we are getting ready to end the quick view, and here we are live, and so you can kind of see a lot of the changes that have happened on this one. So we're coming over here to a new section. Man, I'd like to say it's more, I guess, semi-modern. Not really. I kind of still need to block off the view to the coaster, but I guess I'll need to put that on my to-do list. And go straight through the trees, get confused, back away. So, all right, that right there you'll see is our little planetarium that we put in. Little option for the kids if you have the younger ones. You can go and look at the stars again on the massive screens and everything. And here's our Ferris wheel that I did put in. Put some basic arc shapes for the queue line. And this one right here is that twister. It's the one I believe they call it the Hurricane. But I went on ahead and called it the Cantina Twister. Mainly because in Austin, a lot of bars and stuff, like Mexican restaurants, have a section they call the Cantina. It's really just an outdoor eating section with a bar connected to it. But that's what kind of inspired that one. And it gets pretty dizzy with all the lights I put in there. All right. So here we are at the Mainstreet. As you see all the buildings that I kind of put in to start, I do have Looney Balloons, Street Fox Coffee, Cosmic Cow, Gulpy Energy, which is oddly like Gatorade. I did put a restaurant in that building with the Gulpy that's attached to it, and a medical center, just because you always might want to need one. And how do you get to the new coaster, you ask? Here is the pathway to it. And I named this one the Lost Flight. Kind of a flight that goes through the woods, twists and turns, and almost crashes a couple of times. Essentially, so I kind of like how that one worked out. And the entrance to the queue is made with plane parts. There's a plane flying over the queue. I didn't realize those were animatronics, so when they kick on here in a minute, you'll kind of see that. And so I'm going to let y'all go ahead and give this one a ride. So just remember, as you're watching this, like and subscribe and put any comments and suggestions you have down below. So as always, everybody, see ya and later.